use that as a vertical page in order to make recently developed paper. And then if it becomes like 14, that's when you're going to say, are you, are you putting too much of other people's stuff, or, sometimes 14 is okay, but, especially when it comes to research papers, but say I told you, okay, let's do a 1 to 2 page paper, you give me 7, and I've had that happen, you say 1 to 2 pages, and somebody gives you 7, you know that they're just word dumping bleh on a paper. So it's just a guesstimate. If I get 4.5 and it's well written, I would rather have 4.5 well written pages than 7 bleh. Okay?
About okay written.
Go and do it well. That's what I think.
Were we supposed to have like a works cited page for the research paper as well?
Yes. Because how do I know what you cited?
I just did my annotated attachment.
Okay, so on your final, because your annotated is only 3 and you needed 5.
No, I had extra ones on the last page had my other
Okay, so just copy and paste all of them over to your works cited and make sure that they're in alphanumeric order, but don't include the paragraphs.
Okay.
And hopefully while you're working today, I'll get your other one back to you with notes, and then you'll be able to see why I told everybody to turn in this paper today is I'm sending my kids and my husband off hunting, and I'm staying home this weekend so that I can get your rough drafts back to you on Tuesday, and so you can fix anything. So if you have, so if there's things that you need to fix on that work side of you'll know that.
Okay.
Apologize for my voice going in and out, and probably look better than I feel. But last week we only had 4 people. We had just Ann, you. Who else was here?
Okay.
So yeah, there was 4 people. That's it. The other day. So we worked on some grammar. I gave it to them and told them that they could take it home because of our. I didn't want to be here longer than needed with being sick.
Because it sucks.
And because that just means you're exposed to it longer. They put me on some pretty strong antibiotics. So if you were not here, or you would like a copy, this is what they were given.
No. Is it the second part to our study guide?
It is part of it because on the final, I know that the midterm we didn't get any grammar. There was no grammar questions on the midterm, but there will be on the final. And the likelihood is going to be that it will be 1 or 2 out of, probably be like the pronoun antecedent with the agreement. So like where we put a pronoun and it's singular, then your verb has to be singular, and so on and so forth. So that will probably be, well, that's on there, and as will a couple of these that you're going through. And then there will probably be 1 or 2 on sentence fragments / run-on sentences. So really the only way to study that is know the rules. The rules on comma splices or sentence fragments is that every sentence has to be, you have your dependent clauses and your independent clauses, and you have to make sure you have subjects and verbs in every sentence.
Is the final all multiple choice or no? No? All right, just
we're going to talk about that today.
Essay.
There's an essay, and then it's worth 100 points. And we're going to talk about that today, in fact. So, today is a work day. work on the CAP packet, which, like I said, I've already given to the people who are here. But you can work on it, and then let's say about midway I'll stop and I'll make sure you have the answers to these. And then this is your study guide, the final review. If you were smart enough to hang on to all of your papers, all of your backlog papers and so on, the majority of this review is the same as your midterm, because I told you it was cumulative. So we're going to go through this quickly. There's a couple of extra pages. And I told Josanne that I would email this to her. So if you look at this, a lot of them are exactly the same. So if you kept your old review or if you kept your old test, then you'll be able to go through. Changes start on number 7 there. When I went through the midterm exams, probably the most missed question by all groups that I have in English 090 was the question about theme and understanding what a theme is. And a lot of people are getting theme mixed up with plot. The plot is what happens step by step. Okay? So retelling plot or summarizing plot is not the theme. Some people get it mixed up with moral, or like a moral of a story, like a lesson. And the lesson is, don't count your chickens before they're hatched, those kinds of morals. But a theme is the dominant idea or ideas that a writer is trying to convey to his readers in a work of literature. Okay, for example, in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, McMurtry represents a human individuality. McMurtry was he was a mentally ill patient that was in the cuckoo's nest, as they called it, which was the hospital, the state hospital. And he was very individual, and he was starting to coax other people to kind of buck the system. And so it says, the institution, a symbol of society as a whole, turns McMurphy into an automation, okay, by giving him pills and making him basically do the things that we want him to do, right? So the theme of the story is that modern society endeavors to squash individuality and destroy free expression. Okay, so it's not a moral, but it's the so what about it? Okay, so in the stories that we read the turkeys in the kitchen and everything. You could say that service is a theme, but what you mean by that is you can't just say service. Service is a topic, but what about service? When we serve others, then we have to give of ourselves without expecting something in return or whatever that might be. So it has to be specific, but it is not retelling the story. Okay. Then the next change doesn't really occur until you get to the grammar section there on the next to last page there. And it says, be able to correct sentence errors such as fragments, run-ons, or comma splices using methods that we discussed in class. You may also encounter questions about subject-verb agreement and shifts in verb tense. You may choose to review the handouts or also all this information. Each concept that we have really dealt with are in here. Okay, so if you go to the sentence grammar section, you can kind of check and make sure you know how to complete, how to work the grammar problems. And then you can also go to outlining. For example, there's examples of how to outline in this as well. So look over those sections. And then finally, the last page is the only addition, really, that you'll need to know beyond what we did for the midterm. Rhetorical devices, you did know the devices before the midterm. You knew ethos, pathos, and logos as far as vocabulary words, but then we use them a lot more. So when we use them, we start like analyzing the different speeches. And when we analyze the 9/11 speech by President Bush, we only analyzed it for emotional appeal. But if I were to give you maybe a section of a different speech and said, pull out an example of an emotional appeal and explain to me why it's an emotional appeal, you should be able to do that. Okay. So in other words, you should be able to select an example from the writing. And I might not say it's an emotional appeal. I might say it's ethos or pathos or logos. You know what I'm saying? And then fallacies and argumentation. We didn't go into the specific fallacy titles or names, and I didn't want to, because this is kind of a basic class, and you're going to get a lot more of that in your higher level classes. And so I didn't want to beat a dead horse. And so you're welcome to look the specific fallacies up. But what we did with the fallacies was we watched the that video on the argumentative video on the food and everything, Food Inc. And we stopped the video quite a few times and explained why the appeals that they were using were really fallacies. And sometimes I explained to you that the fallacies were like begging the question or bandwagoning or whatever it was, non sequiturs, any of those things. I didn't explain to you which specific fallacies they were, because it's not as important as just understanding that what a fallacy is a flaw in the logic. Okay? There's a flaw in the logic saying that if I jumped off of this chair and just boom, stomped, and then there was an earthquake at the exact same moment that somebody said, Miss Benjamin was the cause of that earthquake. Okay? Because it happened just directly after. And the flaw in the logic is that there could be a such thing as a coincidence that just so happened that I jumped off the chair at the exact same time that this happened. Okay? And so that's what a fallacy is. It's just a flaw in the logic. And other mistakes that we make, for example, you can see here, in arguing that a position lacks merit, is it okay to attack the following? So let's discuss these, and you guys can write them in. Is it okay to attack the credibility of an opponent? It is? Okay, so explain what.
Well, when you're trying to figure out if the research or what they're arguing is actually factual, you need to check their credibility and the validity of what they're saying to know if it's truthful when you can listen to it, or if it's just bias or unlogical and unfactual.
So the credibility of the opponent. The answer to this question is it depends. I can attack a person's credibility if it is if that attack basically has something to do with what's actually being argued. So, for example, if President Obama says he's pro-choice, 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 and then all of a sudden when he's arguing with somebody just to win the argument, he starts talking about how there really shouldn't be a choice and that abortion is wrong, then I could attack his credibility. And I could say, look, all of these times that you've ever argued this, you have stated that you agree in pro-choice, and now you're changing your stance just so that you can win this argument. So I am attacking his credibility as a person, right? I'm attacking his credibility because he's changed stances and hasn't given a legitimate reason why, and it was just to win. So the answer to that is really it depends. I can't attack credibility to something that doesn't substantiate what we're arguing. Okay? So I can say, and don't take this wrong, I'm just using you because you're looking at me.
Okay.
Okay? you lied to me last week, so today you must be lying. I can't attack his credibility that way, because just because he lied to me last week doesn't mean he's lying today. Okay? So that's a false logic thing that you can't do. Now the next one says, can I attack the character of an opponent? So can I attack your character?
It depends on how relevant it is to your argument. If you're talking about, for example, somebody being dishonest with you, and you say you have a history of being dishonest, then it's a relevant argument. But if you're talking to somebody about being dishonest and they have no history, in fact, they have a history of being extremely honest with you, then it wouldn't be in your favor.
Okay. In writing, we generally tend not to attack the character of a person. Rather, it is better, and like you say, it does depend, but rather it is better to stick with attacking the merit of their argument. So if Shannon and I were arguing a point, then I wouldn't say, well, she's more honest than her, so you're attacking her character. Instead, or Miss Benjamin's never lied to us, we've never had a reason to lie, and we don't know her character, she can just be a nobody, and so they're using the character to judge the argument rather than the argument to judge the argument. Okay? So it shouldn't matter if, you always should use the argument to judge the argument, and not attack the character. Okay. Now, where does this come to play? Like she said, it depends. Have you ever gone into a court of law and they have character witnesses to say, well, see, look, they've never lied before. Why would they start lying now? Those types of things. And so they do pull in people who into arguments saying, this is the character of this person. Okay. Usually that doesn't occur until
These are
they're
people
ready
that
to
go to
sentence.
church. How could they embezzle money from you?
Yeah, exactly. That's the flaw of logic.
Oh.
Yeah. You go to church, therefore you never embezzle money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the last one, can I attack the logical support or lack of logical support in an argument?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the biggest one. If you always attack the support, the logic in the argument, the emotional appeals, and see what happens is the appeals are just ways people argue. That doesn't mean they're right or wrong. Just because I use emotion in my speech, maybe I use emotion in my speech so that you want to agree with me, but maybe I use emotion in my speech to get the point across. So it's not good or bad. It's just a ploy that I use to get you on my side. And so is it effective or is it not effective? In the final, you're not going to have to make any judgments as to whether this is an effective or non-effective speech, or you're not going to have to analyze like that. You're just going to have to be able to define ethos, pathos, logos, be able to find examples, and if you find an example, be able to speak to whether that example is, like, this is an example of an emotional appeal because as a reader, I'm compelled to buy this product because it makes me, makes me happy or whatever. Okay. So that is this is your final. And as I said, if you already have this completed, you could just go back to your review. If not, then you have to go back and make sure you know those again. And don't just assume because you got an A on the midterm that you'll you'll get the A on this, because the questions are not the same questions. They're the same type of questions, but it's not the exact same question. In fact, do you remember the one thing that had all matching A through like M? It's not laid out that way.
Good.
Okay, so I think you'll be happy about this. Part of the thing about English and them asking us to make a final or to have a final exam is that here I am conducting a class on writing construction, right, and methods. And then you take a quiz and it is, you know, multiple choice or whatever, and you don't really end up having to write a lot. So it doesn't show me that you have learned the conventions and things that I've been talking about, like, do you now know to put a thesis statement? Do you now know to put, you know, to use a, a topic sentence and a concluding sentence? Do you know, those types of things. So, the way that I constructed this final exam is it's going to be in 2 parts. And so this is part 1 of what you'll be doing.
Is there another part from this final from our past reading?
I don't know. I haven't 100% read the entire final, but yes, all past reading is definitely on the.
All that's on there?
What readings we did? We did. I taught pretty sometime or someday. Nature's paparazzi, turkeys in the oven, and then dumpster diving, and then the
Serving in Florida.
serving in Florida. So five essays that you will have needed, and it will never be specific. I won't say, you know, on page 10, what was that character's name? It will never be specific. It'll be something in general, like 15 questions or something like that. Okay, so side 1 of this is a Mama's Secret, which is a essay, short essay. So the prompt that you see on page 2 explains to you that if you read the directions, it says, plan your response to the prompt below by creating a properly formatted outline. Your outline should utilize Roman numerals to designate the main topics of discussion. Your outline is worth 20 points towards your final exam. Then, step 2, write an essay using it 3 paragraphs minimum. If you want to make it a 5-paragraph essay, fine. But 3 paragraphs minimum, which would be an intro, a body, and a conclusion to discuss the prompt below. Your essay should be double-spaced, and you should use appropriate MLA style and conventions and formatting. Your essay is worth 30 points towards your final exam.
So are those homework assignments?
They're not homework, but you can certainly do them at home. So what I mean by that is, we're going to be work today as a work day. You can work on your outline. Thursday, or next Tuesday is a work day, and you can work on these. So you can certainly just do it in class if you want, or take it home and do it. Your choice. Okay? Most people can hammer out a 3-paragraph essay in 45 minutes to an hour, I'm sure. So you should have time between this class, next class, and the final. And I'm thinking that the finalists are worth 50 points. It's not 50 questions. A few of the questions are worth more than 1 point. But on actual final day when you come in, it's just the multiple choice sections. And maybe some little short answer, like, you know, the 2 or 3 lines, no essay, major things, or anything to that effect. And I'm assuming that with it being less than 50 questions, that it would take you less than 50 minutes to complete the exam. Okay, so if you need that time to work on this, that's fine as well. And I will be here the whole time. So it is not homework that I am sending you and saying you must do at home. But if you did it at home and typed it out, it would probably be better. If you want to handwrite it, please, 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 if you're handwriting it, double space. Give me space to correct your paper, okay? As you can see, the prompt says, if you were in Mama's shoes, would you have pretended to your child that your family had money in the bank? Now, I'm not going to tell you, there's no right or wrong answer, by the way. doesn't matter if you say, yes, I would, no, I wouldn't, but whatever your opinion, you have to support it by, okay, this is what she's feeling, this is what I think about that kind of behavior, whatever. I had a student who, if you want to say that, Mama's kind of a hero in that she was kind of putting a security blanket for her children so that they didn't have to suffer. So she kind of suffered knowing that they were in a bad spot and not making her kids suffer. Or other people will say, it's wrong to mislead kids. You should really tell them, and maybe they would be able to come out another way. So whatever your opinion is, just support your opinion and discuss using specific words like, when Mama says this, I really disagree with the sentiment, right? Or when the daughter says this, you can tell that the daughter really was disappointed and felt like she could, whatever, I don't care, but you have to be able to use the essay to springboard off of. Don't just write an opinion on it. If I were Mama, I wouldn't have done it. Well, then you only need one sentence. You definitely don't need a 3-paragraph essay, okay? So, in other words, is you get a week and a half to do this weekend plus next week. So, I think that's enough time. And as I said, that's 50 points of your 100 points for the final. And the final, again, will only be conducted on that Thursday. So if you get in a car accident or are so sick that you're hospitalized, something to that effect, you need to call me so I can arrange giving you an incomplete or whatever. Yeah.
So we can just do this at home and type it up and give it to you, and that account goes okay.
Yeah. Or you can, well, you're still going to work during the work time here, and I don't want people to leave during the work time because I want you to be able to ask me questions either about the vocabulary, or not vocabulary, the grammar packet, or be able to say, hey, could you look this over, or can you look at my outline, those types of things. I'm not giving you a lot of direction, again, on how to do the outline. Remembering that the Roman numerals, if you have, if it's a 3-paragraph essay, I would assume that you would at least have how many Roman numerals? 3. Okay, maybe even, definitely 3. And and it's okay if you do a 4 or 5-paragraph essay. If you have an A, you must have a B, right? If you have 1 point, you have to have a second point. And you can get as in-depth for your, you can get as in-depth as you'd like, but I'd like for you to probably maybe use Roman numerals, then the alphabet, and maybe numbers, but don't go past that. Don't get the little A's and I. Don't go that far. There's no need for that for this little essay. Okay? Questions? Concerns? Moans, groans, gripes? Does everybody think that this is a fair assessment of what you're doing? Okay, good. And I think most people are happy that you can take it home if you choose, and that gives you a chance to type it out. If you want to use the computers back there, you're welcome to. You can email yourself your paper back home. I have a couple of jump drives that you could save to and email yourself. Whatever you'd like. You could save it to your student profile. Okay?